There we go. Hello. Okay, I'm just sharing my screen because I'm doing the presentation from my phone. There you go. Amazing. Sure, it's amazing what technology can do these days. Now, hi everyone. My name is Ilse Venter. Welcome to my iStore Meets online workshop on how to take amazing family photos with your iPhone. Hello also to everyone on Facebook. I'm so happy to have you all here. You guys are all joining us from like all over the country, which is amazing. We have Cape Town to Nîmes, Newcastle, Joburgers. I haven't even read all the rest of the comments yet. I'll get to that, but thanks so much for being here and for taking the time. I am greeting you from Johannesburg this morning. It's actually a very nice day. The last time I did the workshop, it was super cold, so I'm really happy for the weather. Now, as we are all still in lockdown in South Africa, as you well know, I just want to send all of you like loads of love and light from my side. And I hope during this hour, we can connect, learn new skills, and have some fun while we're at it. Now, just to share a little bit more about me, I am a storyteller at heart. It is my why. I am very lucky to tell people stories using different mediums like training, acting, and of course, visually through photography. Now, I started my photography journey in Johannesburg about 4 years ago, and I've grown my business called I Do Pictures. You'll see at the top right of the screen, there's my handle for Facebook and Instagram. I'd love for you to follow me. It's pronounced I Do Pictures. Now, I offer couple and family photo shoots, headshots, personal branding, and events photography. I absolutely love photographing people. I don't have a studio. I am a lifestyle photographer, which means I shoot with purely natural light as much as possible. So either outdoors, on location, or at my clients' homes, obviously when we're not in lockdown, which will hopefully be soon. My style is to capture as unposed as possible moments as well, and to create like warm and rich imagery. Now, you don't have to be a professional photographer with a big chunky camera to tell the stories of your experiences. You have an incredible piece of technology, your phone, at your disposal. And today I'll be sharing some simple tips and tools to empower you to take your storytelling to the next level, to capture people, loved ones, moments, and things meaningfully and really with intention. So today we'll be discussing 6 tips on family iPhone photography, which will consist of the following. So it's light sources, what they are, where to find them and how to use them. Framing, which will be about composition and the rule of thirds. I'm going to give you some technical tips on your phone on zooming and focusing. Posing, how to capture natural moments. Catch and release, which is about organizing your photos, which is really important. And then lastly, some basic editing. If we have some time at the end, then I will edit a photo live in the iPhone editing app, so you guys can see what you can actually do there. And then I will be answering some of your questions at the end. We have quite a lot to get through, and I really want for you to get the most value out of the session as much as possible. So if you have, I'm going to stop now and then to answer some questions if it's on the specific topic I'm talking about, but otherwise I'll try and get to most of your questions at the end, but please send them through. And then just a small thing, if you can, please send your Q&A, all your questions to the Q&A specifically. If you have any comments or like there's something that you didn't know that you're learning now, I'd love for you to post them in the chat. But otherwise, please use the Q&A. It's just the Zoom function. It's a bit easier for me to navigate through your questions if it's in that specific place. Don't ask me why, but the chat bar looks like just a long thread, so I can't really see your questions, and I really do want to answer them. So just some practical stuff. This is only my second webinar, so please be patient with me and with technology. I am like juggling a few things at once with the chat and the Q&A and my presentation and so on. I've got this, I've got you, but I'm just saying if something glitches, just be with us, but we're sending good vibes out there, so that doesn't happen. For those of you who are new to a Zoom webinar and it's your first time, just so you know, I can't see you and I can't hear you, but please communicate with me. You can use, as I said, that Q&A in the chat. And there's also a raise hand button, which I've seen a few of you use. So hi, everyone. And then, right, Also, just keep your phone close. So when we do practical things on it, you can follow along and do them with me. And with that said, let's get started. Tip number 1 is on light sources. Knowing how to use natural light and where to position yourself and your subject is probably going to make the biggest difference in your photography. I cannot stress this enough. I'm going to give you some simple guidelines on how to go about this. Now, one of the best tips that I can give you is to find the light, meaning the sun. It is your best natural resource, light source. If you're shooting indoors, find a space that is naturally well lit. Don't use electrical lights. The best place inside would normally be like near a window or a glass door. If you're shooting outdoors, always shoot in the shade. So really, always shoot in the shade with the sun behind your subject, not in front of them. You'll see in the photo in the middle of this slide, the sun was behind this family, but it was being diffused, meaning softened, because it was shining through some trees and some leaves. So try and avoid any artificial light, and especially your flash. I would suggest turning your flash off just at all times, really, and making sure that you always position yourself and your subject in the best natural light, rather, unless obviously it is nighttime. If it's completely dark and you can't see, obviously please turn on your flash again and then use that. But just know that your flash emits a very, bright burst of light, which is very unflattering, and it can cause those like creepy red eyes in photos. And what it also does is it only really lights your subject, not the background, which is also not really makes for a very interesting photo most of the time. So obviously, if it is at night, you can't avoid it. Definitely use it, but in the daytime, really get used to positioning yourself rather in the best possible light that you can. So to turn your flash off, you'll see now on the slide, if it has a line through it, it means it's off. So all you have to do is to just tap on that little lightning sign. Just tap on it, and then if the line's through it, it means it is off. And to just put it back on, you're just going to tap on it again. So it's as easy as that. Now, it is important to look for the right kind of light and how you are positioned towards it. So in the photo on the left, the person who was taking the photo was faced towards the window where we were standing when she was taking this photo of me and Lily. Now, you'll notice how harsh the bright light is behind us and subsequently how dark we appear. Now, the photo on the right is the one that I was busy taking of Lily. So Lily was in the exact same spot, but because the angle I was shooting at was facing her away from the window, the light falls on the side of her face and it evenly lits the space behind her as well. So it creates a much warmer and softer light just because of the changed angle. Like, do you notice the big difference that this makes? So that's very important to look for the right kind of light. So in these examples, I also placed my subjects near a window, but I didn't use the window as the background. So the photo on the left, you will notice the window was on my right. And then for the photo on the right of this slide, I was standing in the window and taking the photo inwards into a room. So this allowed the light to fall nice and evenly and softly onto her face. But just be careful that you don't, when you stand in the window, that you don't actually block the light. So you might need to move a little bit to accommodate for that. But it definitely still helps that the light falls evenly on their face. Okay, when you are outside, you will want to position your subject so that the sun is behind them. So the light does, however, need to be diffused or softened by shining through leaves or trees, as you'll see in these examples. It wasn't just a clear sky with the sun shining on them. If it was just the bright sun behind them, then it would have had the same effect as putting them in front of a window and shooting that. So they would have been very dark. But in this example, because both of these examples, because there was the sun was behind them, but it was shining through something, it was completely diffused, which means they weren't as dark as they would have been if it was just bright sun right there. Right, so this is a very cool trick. So it might take you some time to train your eye to see and understand these different lighting conditions, but I don't want you to despair. So to make it easier for you, let me show you this really, really easy trick. I call this my 360 trick, and you can use it for taking selfies or when photographing people or objects. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to, you have your phone, whether you're taking a selfie or taking a photo of people, and you're going to open your camera app, and then basically you're going to stand there, click, take a photo, turn 90 degrees, take another photo, turn another 90 degrees, take another photo, and then obviously towards the back. I just don't want to turn my back on you guys. But then what's going to happen is you'll end up with 4 photos in the same spot but different angles, and you can quickly review them to see which angle had the best lighting conditions. So it's so easy, and I promise you I also still do this sometimes because sometimes the lighting conditions aren't so easy to predict. So if you do that, it's so quick, and that can help you, see where the best angle is at. So I'm quickly going to just double check the Q&A. So if you can all just hold on for 1 second, I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. I just want to view that Q&A bar and see if there's anything specific. So the pics that you just saw, the ones that shining through the trees and the ones that were indoors, yes, that was taken with my iPhone. And I have an anonymous person asking about that. So yes, they were taken with my iPhone and edited on my iPhone as well. And then someone's asking, will the recording of this webinar be available? I'm going to ask the iStore guys to answer that for you. I'm not exactly sure if this recording will be available. But thank you for your question, Evie. Cool. Let me jump back into my presentation and then we can get going. Is everyone still fine? Can we get some raised hands over here? Is everyone good following me? Yes, yes, millions of raised hands. I love it. Thank you. Awesome. Let me just open this up again and share with you. That's so great. Thanks, guys. You're amazing. Okay, cool. Right, so let's just get back to it. These ones that you see also are also all on my iPhone. It wasn't shot with the camera. Okay, so let's see. So now you know more or less where to shoot, but another extremely important thing to know is when to shoot, right? So magic hour or golden hour is what we call the time in the hour after sunrise in the morning and the hour before sunset in the afternoon. So to give you an idea, in Johannesburg, I do all my photo shoots, whether indoors or outdoors. It's either 7 a.m. in the morning or around 5 p.m. in the afternoon, unless it is an event, and that's unavoidable, and you obviously work with what you have. But if it's for families, couples, headshots, anything like that, absolutely only those times. It really makes a massive difference. And then you'll see if you live in a place where the sun rises and sets at different times, and I'm specifically looking at everyone who's from Cape Town or the Western Cape, because you have very, very long days, you would have to adjust to still shoot whatever the hour is after sunrise or the hour before sunset, wherever you are. So it might be different from the 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. that I use, but whenever that hour is, you can shoot at that time. It is uncomfortable to get up that early in the morning, but I promise you it is so worth it. Like, the light is magical. It's amazing. It really, this is why these photos you'll see also all at 5 p.m. And the reason why I can get this type of photo is because of that magical light at that hour of the day. So why otherwise do I also shoot during magic hour? The light from the sun is really at its softest, most flattering, most diffuse state, which makes it so easy to work with. It doesn't cast like dark shadows under your eyes like it would in the middle of the day. It's like a natural kind of Instagram filter, and often makes the light look warm and golden. It's just amazing. I'm a very excited person during that hour when I'm taking photos. Really, it's gorgeous. And that is your first tip on light sources. So I quickly want to jump back into the Q&A section just to see if I have missed anything. Let's see. Which iPhone are you using for photos? Addy is asking. Thanks for your question, Addy. I have an iPhone 11 Pro, which I'm using. For those of you who are using older versions of iPhone, I mean, the camera is like spectacular. It's amazing. So don't worry if you don't have the latest one. I mean, do get it if you can, but if you still have an older version, it's absolutely amazing. So you can take all of these photos with your iPhone. That's why we're here, to look at the different tips that I can give you to get these kinds of photos. Larika says magic hour would be different in winter in Johannesburg. Absolutely. So if it's winter, like about now, obviously I can't do any photo shoots right now, but normally in a lockdown free world, I would be shooting at about 7:30 in the morning. I would adjust it slightly, and in the afternoon it might be at 4:30. But again, as I said, you always need to, you can actually just Google wherever you are. You can Google, if you're in Newcastle, for example, you can Google Newcastle, South Africa, sunset time today, whatever. And Google will tell you where the sun is setting, and you just adjust so that you are within that hour. So it's not, it was just to give you a more or less when I shoot, but I also adjust according to these times. So I Google throughout the year and see, but most of the time it's around those hours. Thank you for your question. Great, let's jump back into it. Right, so tip number 2 is all about framing. Now, as a guideline to help you learn about composition, a great place to start is what we call the rule of thirds. So this rule states that you should divide your image into 3 parts, like both horizontally and vertically, which means you'll have 9 parts, 9 blocks kind of, as you see the image on the screen. So the idea is that you position the most or the point of interest of your photograph on the intersections or along the lines of this grid. So I quickly want to turn on something so I can actually draw on the screen. Can I do that? No, I can't. But you'll see for the examples on the photo. So let's start with the photo on the left. You'll see Lily and Anzel is at the bottom intersection, the bottom lines and the bottom intersections. Those were where my interest was for the photo, my point of interest, and that's where I framed them. And you'll see the top of it. It's fine. It doesn't really matter at which intersections you put it. You can play around with this a little bit. And then the photo on the right, you'll see the intersection is on her face, like near her eyes. So that's where I positioned that one. Cool. Now, you can activate this grid in your settings on your iPhone to always display that grid like the ones you saw now. Let me just go back one slide. There we go. So this is going to be our first practical. So if you have your phone, grab it quickly. I'm going to show you where to turn on your grid. So let me just quickly change to a different spot. You guys should be able to see my phone screen now. Let me quickly see, just so you can see. Okay, right. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to go into your settings on your iPhone, right? And then you're basically going to scroll mine is quite far down. So you're going to scroll all the way down. We're looking for the camera. So there you'll see is my camera app settings. So if I click on it, there's an option that says grid. So normally it would be turned off by default, but if you just tap that slider on, then it'll turn on your grid. And now when you turn on your phone, you'll see those little grid lines over there. So initially it might bother you a little bit because you're not used to seeing that, but you get used to it so quickly, and then you really just don't see it anymore after a while. And it really just helps you also get straight lines, which is great. Right, cool. Now, so for taking photos, you can try taking photos vertically, so portrait. Let me just take my phone quickly. So portrait like this, or vertically, or horizontally landscape. It really depends, and I would encourage you to try both for photos that you're taking to see what effect that has on your photos. Just remember, when you take horizontal photos, you need to turn your phone anti-clockwise, like this, not the other way around. If you've ever taken photos and you sent them to someone and they got them and they like upside down, that is the reason. So when you have them, always turn them anti-clockwise. That's the horizontal position you want to take it in. And you'll also see your camera would always be on top when you turn it horizontally. So that's just a little tip. Cool. Then also, when you're taking photos, try and move around to take pictures at different angles of the exact same setting. So you don't have to change your subjects. Really just move yourself, move your feet, and move your camera wherever you're going. So you'll see specifically what I mean now in these 3 photos. So they were both sitting on the couch, and I got 3 completely different photos just by moving around. So I changed my angles completely. So something that's not something that you would normally do, because we normally take photos straight on, right? But you'll see the photo on the left, I was taking the photo from the top down. It was actually, for that specific one, I was just standing near them and then taking the photo from the top down, which gives us really kind of interesting interactive photo, because they both love reading together. So that's really great. And then the photo in the middle was kind of the normal photo that we would have taken, which is still nice. It gives that homey feeling and this home space that they're in. And then the photo on the right, I just thought that was really cute. Firstly, because there's a dog in the photo, so obviously, and then secondly, just because their feet just look really cute to me. So you don't have to, if you're stressing about this, you're feeling a little anxious, like this is a lot to take in, really don't stress about it. You can take the exact same setting. You don't have to move them at all. Just move yourself and start playing around, taking photos at different angles. It really makes a big difference. And that's framing. I'm quickly going to jump back to the Q&A just to see if there is something that I can answer so long for you. Corsi is asking, do you suggest taking a photo in its purest form without a filter? Absolutely, Corsi. And it's a very good question. I do all my editing afterwards. I take a photo always as is exactly, and then I will use filters or presets or editing afterwards. It just helps if you have something original to get back to. Maybe you've made a mistake accidentally with editing. We'll get to editing in a while, but definitely take it without any filters. You can always change it to black and white or whatever you want to do with it afterwards. Someone's asking if I have older photos with iPhones that I can show in comparison. Unfortunately not. I just have the iPhone 11 Pro, but there are other webinars that you can go to with other people that have older photos, and they really shouldn't make a difference. The only difference would be at this moment is that the iPhone 11 Pro has 3 different lenses, and that allows me to take some different kinds of photos, but the quality of the photo should, because you have an iPhone, automatically it should make it awesome by default. Okay, cool. Let's see if there's anything else. I'm going to get to zooming in a second, Shane, so I'll answer your question about the different lenses that I was just speaking about. Lizette is asking, how do you take the photo on the left from the top? So I was literally, they were sitting on the couch. I was literally standing next to them and holding my phone over them. You can also climb onto the couch and take the photo like that, because then you would be able to see a little bit more what you're doing. But I'm quite tall, so that wasn't really necessary. I could just actually stand there and hold my phone like a little bit higher and take the photo like that. Then Sibuyile is asking that missed the steps to get the grid in settings. So you're just going to go to your settings on your phone, scroll down up to where you can see camera. And then once you're in there, it should be about the first option that you can see. It will say grid. So just make sure that slider is on. And then I'm going to talk about Zoom in a second, Trevor, then I'll answer your and Shane's questions about that. Cool, guys. Thank you for sharing your questions. It helps a lot. Right. I just need to quickly stop sharing, and then I'll reshare. Just give me 1 second. Technology. Right. Okay, I'm going to share quickly. Okay, there we go. Right, so tip number 3 is about some important technical things, right? So firstly, before you take any photos, make sure that your front and your back camera lenses are clean. I know it sounds so simple, but if you have a smudgy lens, you can do whatever you want. You can be the most professional photographer in the world, but you're not going to get good photos. So please make sure you do that. You can use the back of your t-shirt or any kind of lint-free cloth and just wipe them down. I wear glasses a lot of the time, so I just only use that little cloth that you get with your glasses. That works great. Right, so now I am going to share my iPhone screen with you, and we're going to look at focusing and exposure in the camera app. So you can also take your phone, turn on your camera app, and then do this with me. So give me 2 seconds. Let me just open this camera. Okay. Normally, if we were in store doing these workshops, I would use a volunteer, but I don't have someone right now, so you'll just have to deal with my plant. It'll show you the exact same thing, really. Okay, now iPhone is very intelligent and it will automatically detect faces when you are taking photos. You'll see there will normally be automatically like little small yellow squares around people's faces. But you can, however, also tell the camera where to focus by tapping on the screen. So you'll see on the camera at the moment, I'm literally just going to take my finger and tap on the screen, and you'll see a yellow square will appear. So there's the yellow square. So I can click that on different spots in the photo. So now notice one thing, that if I click on, you'll see between the curtains there is the outside. You see how bright that is, right? So if I click on it, oops, and not put my finger in front of it, it's going to look a little bit different than if I click on the plant. So if I click in different spots, you'll see it might change it to something brighter, like over there. The photo might be darker than if I click there. There you should see the difference. So now I'm clicking on where the window is. Now I'm clicking on the curtain. So your iPhone will automatically adjust its exposure, meaning how bright the image is, depending on where you're clicking. But for the moment, I actually just want to focus on the plant. So I'm going to click on the plant, and there it's going to focus, right? But now you'll see also when I click on it, there's a little small sun that appears on it. And that sun is actually a slider which you can click on and drag up or down to change how bright or dark your image is. So I'm going to do this on my screen. I'm tapping on it to get that yellow square. And then I'm going to tap on the sun and actually just drag it down. Then you'll see, do you see how dark the image becomes? I can click on that exact same thing and slide it up. So I'm just literally clicking and sliding upwards, and that makes it very bright. So that you can do while you're taking the photo. Sometimes it's necessary to make it either a bit darker or lighter, depending on where you are. Often when it's, I want to take a photo of a sunset or a sunrise, I would make it a little bit darker, because then you can really see those golden, pink, orangey tones very well. Cool, so let's see here. So just for those of you who don't know, when I'm talking about exposure, it really just refers to how bright or how dark an image is. So I'm going to quickly go back and share my slides with you again. So that's just something you can play with, is tapping on the screen and using that sun slider to make an image darker or brighter. It's a really, really nifty thing to have. So let's just get back to my slides. All right. Now, zooming, right? So the golden rule with zooming is please do not zoom. Don't do it. Resist the urge. Rather, always move yourself closer or further away from a subject. That way, you won't lose any quality in your photos. So my iPhone 11 Pro has 3 optical zoom options, meaning it doesn't compromise on a photo's quality if I use them. So I was standing, let me just get back to the previous slide there. Hold on, guys, I just lost my spot there for a second. Zooming options, there we go. All right, now iPhone has a few camera and video shooting modes. So you can just swipe to one of these 3 in your camera app. You'll see when you open it, it'll say photo, and then you can swipe to the right or the left, and it will have different modes like pano mode or portrait mode or whatever else. And so you can play around with those. I'll be going into them a little bit. So in this photo, the photo mode is great for oh, wait, sorry guys, I missed the zooming. Here we go. I'm back on track. I told you technology, hey? Okay, so in terms of the zooming, sorry, I'll get back to the shooting modes. In terms of the zooming, so if you zoom on your phone, you really lose quality in your photos. And we really don't want to do that. So that's why I say move yourself, move your feet closer or further away from something rather than actually zooming. My iPhone 11 Pro has 3 optical zoom options. So you'll see there's an example of each of them on this slide. So I was standing in the exact same spot for all 3 of these photos, but I was using those 3 awesome zoom options that I have on my iPhone 11 Pro. So the thing is, though, you can use all them. So you'll see the one on the left is like a very ultra wide angle. The 1x one in the middle is just the normal one if you open your phone, and then there's a 2 one for an optical zoom option. If you zoom anything in between these options that they give you, you will lose quality in your photos, unfortunately. So that's why I said I would use sometimes the ultra wide one, just because it's great also for landscapes, and often I'm in a space where I can't get further away enough to really get everything in the photo that I want. So I love that ultra wide one. But for older versions of iPhone, you don't always have all of these options. So really see how far or how close you can get with your feet, rather than zooming in yourself, because it will definitely have an effect on your on the quality. Okay, cool. Now we can get to the other modes. I just quickly want to jump. I'm seeing a bunch of questions here, so let me just quickly jump into the Q&A for a second. So someone is asking about what is the portrait and pano I see on screen when I take a photo. I will get to the shooting modes now, and then I'll show you exactly what it means. It's really fun to play with. So thanks. Gary is sending me a question that someone has on Facebook. Stefan, thank you for your question. You're asking, are you using flash on when the sun is behind the pics for the family outside? I will show you that photo again, but no, I wasn't using flash. Remember, I said I don't use flash. So that's why I said the reason that they were well lit is because the sun was shining through some trees. If it wasn't like that, if the trees weren't behind them and it was just bright sunlight, then I would have had to use a flash, which I don't want to. So I really always try and position my subjects so that there is something diffusing the sun. Clouds are also a great option for that. If you don't have, if there's no trees, but it is a cloudy, overcast day, that's actually perfect, because that's automatically diffusing the sun in any way. So that's really great. So Non Shantla on Facebook is asking, when doing your photo shoots, do you use your iPhone or use a camera? Contemplating purchasing a camera and wondering if it's worth it. So thank you for your question. I'm a professional photographer, so I do have a digital camera, and I use that for any of my, my paid photo shoots, just because that I know often people want to print photos and print like big canvases off of it, and a camera is your best bet to get a really good quality. But if you're not planning on really doing it professionally, then I would definitely suggest you just get an iPhone, because that is such a great substitute. And to be honest with you, at any time when I'm traveling, I absolutely only use my my iPhone. I don't use my camera because it's so big and heavy to drag around with. So, and I love my iPhone. It takes amazing photos, and it's not something that I necessarily would want to print on like huge A1, A2 canvases. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't discourage you if you want to like do photography and really play around with it. Absolutely. I'm a photographer, so I love my camera. But just so you know, you can, there's like a lot of people out there who you've seen in people's Instagram feeds, like they really just take photos with their iPhones, and it looks incredible. Like sometimes you can't really see the difference on such a tiny screen. So yeah, thanks so much for that. And then I'm going to jump back into it. I'll get your question a bit later, Richard. Thank you so much for that. And let me just share my slides again. There we go. Okay. Right. So as I said, the iPhone has a few camera and different shooting modes, and that you can swipe to one of them to use them. So for these specific slides that you can see here, I put the camera modes there at the top right, so you can see what I'm talking about. Those are the different shooting modes that you can use. Now, on the rest of the photos on this slide, the photo on the left, that is the normal photo mode when you open your camera app. So that one is really great for when you want everything in your shot to be in focus, where nothing should really be blurry. You want to see everything. And with that particular photo, that's exactly what I wanted. I was standing far enough away so that I can get a bit of the scene in, and the pictures hanging behind them, and the couch. So that's perfect for that. I didn't need anything to be blurry. So then you can use your photo one. The portrait mode in the middle that is one that creates like this beautiful blurry effect around your subject, that you can even edit the intensity afterwards. So I can also do this afterwards and just show you quickly how that works, but definitely play with that. You'll see if you turn on portrait mode and you tap on your screen like I showed you earlier, you'll see whatever you tapped on will be in focus, and there will be a lot of blur around the rest of that, which is really fun to play with, especially if you want your subject to stand out. And that's exactly what I did in the middle photo over here. When I took that headshot of Anzel, I was using portrait mode. So she's in focus, but the things behind her weren't really important for the photo, so they were blurry. You can set how blurry you want it to be afterwards, which is great with iPhone. So definitely play around with that. And then the photo on the right is what pano mode is. Now this is like a really fun setting to play with. I normally use it a lot with landscapes, like if you're traveling anywhere and there's like this beautiful landscape but you can't get enough of it in by just taking a normal photo, you use pano mode. So literally how it works, you'll see it'll also explain it when you're on your camera app, but you're just really going to hold your phone very still, and then you're going to move it when you take after you've like clicked to take the photo, and you're going to move very still and try and stay on the same horizontal line, which I also still struggle with, so it's really just practicing with it. And then it really just takes a wide photo, and it gets a lot more in than it would if you were just taking a normal photo. So with this one, actually, you'll see the family that I was taking a photo of, I was taking a pano mode of, because there were like these beautiful trees in their garden. What accidentally happened was, you'll see it makes like a little flare around. So that's not something I edited in afterwards. It was this happy accident, because the sun was shining quite brightly. So when I was using that pano mode, it actually like made a whole little circle of sun flare, which was quite cute. Then there's also another mode. Sorry, I just want to jump back into the Q&As quickly. Here we go. Let's just quickly see the questions there before I move on. Do you recommend using a tripod with an iPhone to steady the image? I mean, yes, you can. I don't have that for my iPhone. I don't have a tripod. I think it's great. If you do have one, definitely use it. But it's good to learn to really keep still when you are taking photos. To really just hold it. You can try and keep your elbows as close to your body as possible, because that really helps kind of creating your own kind of tripod with your arms. If you hold it out too far, we naturally shake quite a bit. So try and hold your elbows as close to your body as possible when you're holding it, and then it's just something we have to practice. But if you have one, by all means, you can definitely use it. Here we go. Someone is asking, Kishore, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Excuse me if I don't. It's asking, is it okay to use pano mode if there are a lot of people that you need to capture together? Yes, you can. I would suggest, if you can, to rather move far away and take a normal photo, just because the pano has quite a bit of they call it a fisheye effect, so it doesn't really look normal. It's like a little circle that's being created. It doesn't look completely normal. So it depends on what type of photo. If it's something artistic that you want to play around with, absolutely. But if you're taking like a family photo, I would rather suggest you try and move as far away as possible, or to use that optical zoom option with the ultra wide lens, because that will definitely get them all in there. Right, okay, let's quickly jump back in here. Now, I love this feature called the burst mode. So it allows you to take a bunch of images of an action that you might have missed certain moments of otherwise. So you can afterwards go and select your favorite images from the collection and then save them to edit. So on this, you'll see now I've just taken some screenshots of the burst mode. So the father was like swinging his little daughter around in the garden, and that's not something I would have necessarily gotten the right moment of if I was taking it myself, because it was happening too quickly. But with burst mode, with older iPhones, you can click just the normal camera button, and if you hold it in, it's just going to take a bunch of photos very quickly. With from the newer iPhones, you now have to click on it and swipe to the left and then it's going to use, it's going to go into burst mode, which is really great. It's so fun to play with. So anytime there's some kind of action and you're not sure if you're going to get the right moment, use burst mode, and afterwards you can go in and select your favorites. So you'll see with these photos that you can see in front of you, there's a little white circle at the bottom right of each photo. Those are what you're going to click on to select your favorites. And then once you have, so obviously I'm not going to, like the middle photo where you can't really see Lily, that's not a photo I'm going to use because obviously that doesn't really show me. So that's one I would like to discard. Whereas some of the photos on the far left or far right are more ones that I would like to edit and play with. So those ones you can click on that little circle at the bottom right, and then when you're done, you're going to select down at the top right, and then it's going to ask you whether you want to discard the rest. You could just say yes, and then it will leave you with the photos only that you want. Burst mode takes photos very quickly, so you can within like a few seconds take 40, 50 photos. So just be careful when you play with that, and you do want to then delete them afterwards, but I'll get to that a bit later. So you can also use this mode with your kids if they're running or if you're throwing them in the air, even with your pets who are really hard to take photos of sometimes because they just move so much. So that burst mode is great for that. Then, yeah, that's basically burst mode. So that's a really fun thing to play with. So anytime there's some kind of action, I would definitely suggest you playing around with this. There we go. All right. So tip number 4. So this is all about posing and how to get natural moments. Now, the best way to think about this is not to think of yourself as a photographer, but rather a kind of film director. So in other words, rather use prompts that will cause your subjects to move and interact with one another rather than just saying, smile, because that's really awkward, and often it doesn't give you those natural smiles and laughs that you really want. So with kids, this is especially easy as you can tickle them or throw them in the air, dance with them, and really just be as silly and playful as possible. It will really guarantee those authentic expressions and laughs, and they'll forget all about the camera, which is what we want. So telling a child to smile when someone is pointing a camera at them has a very low success rate. So yeah, if you rather tell them to do something, then they forget about someone's trying to take a photo of them, and you get them in the like natural, beautiful state. So I always also think of posing as not actually posing, but rather kind of setting up a scene and then capturing people and their emotions and interactions within that. So while most of us are at home, like a fun idea could be you and your family making cupcakes, for example, and using that as a photo shoot opportunity. So everyone will already be relaxed, doing something fun, and you and your partner can take turns in taking photos of all the different, moments that happen in this process, like decorating the cupcakes. I don't know, people, yeah, whatever you do when you do that, it's really fun to just watch a little bit and take photos within that. You can also, for instance, do a picnic in the garden and snap pictures of the kids playing with the pets, for example, of the cute snacks you put out, everyone lying on the grass reading, whatever, any one of those scenes. And that's all you really have to do. And then you can really just move to get different angles of them. Yeah, and that's really where the magic happens. So you can also get really creative with this. So try and get as many angles as you can of the same setting. So as I said previously, like you don't have to tell people to move too much. You can just move, and that really makes a big difference. So one important thing is like really get down on the kids' level, get close-ups of their eyes, their little hands, or feet, that's always really cute. You can get some wider angles, so really walk further away so you can see the whole scene. You can shoot from above down, but really just moving around gives you so many photo options. It really has a great effect. So you can see with this slide, for example, a lot of it was on the exact same spot. I was just moving around, and I could get all of these different variations of the photos. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to jump back to the Q&A quickly and see if there's anything I missed. Okay. Just reading through the photos quickly. So Misha is asking, where's the burst mode option on the iPhone 11? So it's not in those options. If you just swipe left or right to get them, you're going to be in your normal photo mode. And then that white button that you click to take the photo, that one you're going to click, hold, and swipe to the left. And keep holding that. So the moment you let go, it'll stop taking photos. But that's where the burst mode is at when you're busy on your phone. For the older versions, you could just hold that button in, but I think now it goes to video shooting mode with my iPhone 11 Pro. Okay, let's see another question. Sinclair is asking, what are the pros and cons for using the live mode? The live mode, guys, is at the top right. You'll see these little circles. That basically takes a very small video before and after you take the photo. It's really cute because you can see like movement when you go through the photos. Sinclair, I don't often use that just because if I do take photos, I actually just want the still. You can actually get a still photo from that live mode as well. So you can turn it on or off, whichever you like. I think it takes a bit more space on your phone when you use live mode, so just be careful of that. But otherwise, it's a really fun thing to play with. Like, I love going through them. It makes me feel like I'm in Harry Potter. It's like moving pictures. All right, let's see. Someone's asking if I can show a sample of that swiping left. It's a little bit difficult to show you. I might do that at the end. So I'll leave the question there. And if there's time at the end, I'll quickly show you how that works. It takes a little bit of maneuvering, but like holding it in and then while you're holding it in, swiping to the left. I'll try and see if I can, you have to play a little with it, but I'll see if we have time, I'll get back to that. All right, cool. Let's get back to the slide. Awesome. So tip number 5 is all about organizing yourself and your photos. So I'm sending you all subliminal messages that this part is fun. Like, look how much that person in the middle is enjoying sorting through her photos. I mean, it's really not, but it's so important. Our phones have limited space, and honestly, we don't need 12 of the same photos. Especially if you're using like burst mode or something, or you didn't use burst mode and you just kept taking photos of a scene because you were scared you were going to miss a moment. We very quickly fill our camera rolls with it. I mean, WhatsApp is downloading photos to our camera rolls as well, so it's taking up a lot of space. So it really is important that you don't just take one photo of a scene. Often, like, someone would be blinking accidentally in the wrong moment or something. So I always, like, my husband knows, for example, he needs to take at least 3 photos anytime I'm asking him to do so, just because of that blinking. So when you're a photographer, you know, there's just this moment where someone is blinking and it just doesn't look right. So definitely take more than one photo, but it's very important to go in afterwards. And then any photos that are duplicates or someone is blinking in them, to go through and actually delete those. So this step is really as important as any of the other steps that I've told you about today. Really, delete. It's really important. So to make it easy, when you go through your photos after a photo session, you can favorite them. So what that means is if you're in a photo, there's a little heart that you can click on. So that means you're favoriting it. And then once you've done that for a photo session, anything that doesn't have a heart with it, you can then select and delete, so that only your favorite ones are left over, and those ones you can then go and edit. Especially for the editing process, you have to do, we call it culling photos or doing selects, which means you're just selecting your favorite, best photos of whatever you were taking photos of, and just using those to edit. So if all those other photos are like cluttering up this space, it's going to make it more difficult when you go to the editing process. So yeah, it's a small tip, but it's really important to just keep yourself organized in your photos and keep enough space on your phone as possible for as long as possible also. Okay, cool. Then tip number 6 is on editing. So my style is very natural. So I love to enhance the photo, and it really is that final touch on images and the story you are telling. So if you are new to editing, the built-in editor on your iPhone is amazing and offers you all the control, or you can choose from different filters that it has already. So if we have a few minutes afterwards, after we're done, I'll quickly go in and show you how that works more or less. But these photos, all of these photos that you've seen of this family on this slide were all edited actually in iPhone itself. I didn't use any other app. I will suggest a few apps just now, but just so you know that if you don't know a lot about editing and you're a little scared and you're new, don't stress. You can actually just use your in-app, editor for that. So when you have identified your favorite photos that you want to edit, you can just click on the edit button at the top right of your screen when you're viewing a photo, and then you can start editing it right in there. So there are a few apps that I can recommend to those of you who want to go a bit deeper into this. I mostly use the built-in editor app, as I said, or my favorite app is actually the Lightroom app. There is at the moment a course, an online workshop through iStore where they're explaining you how to use a Lightroom mobile app. So if you want to learn more about that, definitely go and sign up for that workshop. It's a lot of fun. So I use Lightroom for my professional photos and for just my normal, everyday photos as well, the one on my phone. It's a really, really fun app to use. So for this specific slide, you guys can also take a screenshot of it and just go and look through these different apps that you can use for editing. Other than the iPhone one, you can also use Snapseed, Adobe Lightroom, as I said, Visco or VSCO, however you pronounce that. I've heard different versions. And then Focus is another app. It's not spelled incorrectly. That's how the app is spelled. But some of those have in-app purchases, so just be careful. Some of them have some free filters and stuff that you can use, and then others you can pay for. So I'm not, you can see which one works best. I have my own presets that I created in Lightroom that I use often, and otherwise I just use the iPhone one. It's really, really quick. All right. So let's quickly recap what we've went through today. So number one was your light sources, to find the best natural light, diffused light if you can, and use that 360 trick where you're taking a photo and until you've done a whole 360 and use those 4 photos to see which angles light looks the best. Number 2 was all about framing and composition. So always try to get different angles. Turn on the grid on your iPhone if you can. That really helps to get straight lines and to really just help and play around with different things. There's the rule of thirds really also just kind of states that you get those photos on the intersections of the lines, but don't let that limit you also. You can really break all the rules. It's just a guideline to get you going if you were wondering about how to compose a photo, what actually looks pleasing to your eye. Number 3, we're all about the technical tips. So keep your lenses clean. Use that exposure, that tapping on the screen to change the exposure of a photo. Number 4 was all about posing, but not posing, rather setting up some kind of scene, which sounds, like very professional, but you're actually just telling people to, go ahead with whatever they're doing. So baking cupcakes or swimming or bedtime stories, anything like that. And then just take photos of that. I do want to, at this point, also say for especially the mums out there, you often are the ones who should be in the photos, but you're often the ones taking the photos. So I would really, really, if you relate with that, please ask your partner to take turns, and then also let you have the fun and be in the photos and not always be the one taking the photos. There are such simple tips that you can give them. They don't have to be professional photographers, but really just give them these really simple tips, and then let them also take photos of you so you don't miss these moments. And you really deserve to be in them. So yeah, absolutely ask them. And then number 5 was catch and release, which is all about organizing your photos. So delete any photos that are duplicates or are unnecessary, and make sure you take a moment and you go through them and just choose your favorites. Delete the rest so you save space, and then you can use those favorite ones to go and edit them. And then number 6 was on editing. So really, I'm not going to go too much into it because that's just a whole new conversation on another day. As I said, please go look through iStore's other workshops they have. They have a specific one on editing on your on Lightroom on your phone. So if you are interested in editing, definitely go check that out. And that's really going to give you a new, they're doing just that in that workshop. So you can learn a lot more about that. Cool. So thank you everyone so much for being here. I really appreciate it. It was so fun having you. I am going to go through a bunch of the questions that I got now, but just so you know, if you have to go now, thank you so much. I'd love for you guys to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. It is at I Do Pictures, and you can take a screenshot of this as if you want as well. And then also you'll see at the top is my website. If you want to go, I have a blog there as well. Also, like giving you some extra tips if you want to go through that, you're more than welcome. And I am quickly just going to go through some questions and see if I can answer it. And if I'm done with that, I'll live edit a photo as well. So let's quickly see. Right. So let me just go through these. Thanks, Sandri, for being here. I really appreciate it. Then, so Adrian is asking, how do you turn HDR on? So HDR means high dynamic range, and that is a setting that you can go into your camera settings on your settings, which I showed you earlier for grid. But it is actually mostly, I think the default one is for it to be turned on. I might stand corrected, but I would actually just leave that on. So all that it means, it's really just enhancing your photo. It's like checking which of the dark parts of your photo and the light parts of your photo and making sure that they are all in balance. So I leave mine on. I haven't changed that. Actually, I leave it on because it really just makes a really nice difference to your photo. So I'll keep that on. Adrian, thanks for that. Thanks, Deborah, for being here. I appreciate it. Guys, I'm going to go through your comments as well. Please go share. Remember, there's an iStore voucher that you can win every month. So take a screenshot or take a shot of your setup when you were watching this. Please share your photos afterwards. If you've learned something today that you really can use, please do share them with me. Tag me on Instagram, tag me on Facebook. I'd love to see. And if you have any other questions that I haven't gotten the time to answer here, you're more than welcome to DM me on Instagram. I'll definitely get to them as soon as I can. But I'm so excited to see what you guys do with these new tips that you've learned. Let's say, Adrian, any tips for selfies? That is a really good question. That 360 trick is almost the best tip that I can give you because of the lighting. So lighting is so super important when you're taking a selfie. The other thing that people have said is to try and take it from a slightly higher angle, so not straight on, but to lift up your phone a little bit higher, just for getting better angles of your face. That's basically the best answer I can give you to that. Another thing would be when you do take selfies, try and create distance behind you. So don't, sometimes there is a time and place for taking a selfie against a wall or something, but most of the time, if you take a selfie using lots of space behind you, it creates a much more interesting kind of background in photos. So that often helps. So try and see if you use that, if that's something that can help you. We have a question from Facebook from LB, who's saying, is there an app that recognizes the duplicates? 14,000 photos is a lot to go through. Yes. Well, basically, we want to not get to 14,000 photos from the get-go. So if you haven't done this before, I am really sorry. I'm not aware of any app that does that for you. I think Lightroom maybe does it, but I'm not going to advise you on that because I'm not exactly sure. But really, anytime that you've taken a photo, if it's on a family, family vacation or whatever it is, try and afterwards, even the day after or so, but within that same week, try and really discipline yourself. Go through those photos, delete the duplicates and the closed eyes and the unnecessary ones, and just keep the best ones. I have to do that. I know it's painful, but it's so worth it, really, so that you don't get to that point. Muhammad is asking, what is the best way of holding the actual phone at an angle or completely straight? Muhammad, I would say always to keep it at a straight angle. So whether you're taking a photo in horizontal mode or a portrait mode, to not take a photo like that. I mean, you can edit, you can straighten it afterwards, unless it's some kind of artistic effect that you were going for, which, there's a time and place for. Otherwise, I would really try and keep it straight, whether you're holding it like this or like this. If you're holding it like this, try and not just use one hand because we do shake. Try and hold it with both hands. And as I said, try and keep your elbows as close to your body as possible. If you turn your grid on, then it automatically has those lines so you can more easily see whether you're taking a skew photo or not. but often, most of the time, you will probably want to take, a straight photo. Richard is asking, do you use a diffuser or reflector when using an iPhone camera? I haven't used that. I have a diffuser which I use with my professional camera and those types of photo shoots sometimes, but otherwise I haven't really used it. Sometimes if you are like in a very harsh lighting condition, it might be that you might need some kind of diffuser. Often you can just kind of close the curtains or something like that. If you are walking around with one, then absolutely, if you need it. But otherwise, it's not necessary. If you learn to position yourself in the best possible way and angle, it should be totally fine. Lynn is asking, what is the time lapse used for? Lynn, that is a very fun mode to use. So basically, what it does is it's going to speed up some kind of video. So if you, what is a good example of this? Actually, if you're taking a video of the sun setting, for example, you can actually set up your phone on a tripod if you have one. Otherwise, just prop it up on whatever you have available so that it takes the video. You're not touching it, so it doesn't shake. And then you can leave it on for like a long time to take a video. But when you stop that video, it's going to crunch it all. It's going to speed it up and into like a very short period, which is kind of a really cool thing to play with. So definitely use that. Lorato, thank you. I'm going to get to the editing in just a second. Let me just get through. I have a few more questions. Let's quickly see. Thanks so much, Glenda. I'm so glad you joined us. I'm going to go through the editing in a second. Sorry, I know you guys want to see that. I'm going to get there in a second. What is square mode on iPhone? Thanks, Anton, for that question. So square mode is basically, Instagram only like lets you post square photos, right? So normally if it's in a landscape photo, it'll be fine. But if you're taking a portrait photo like this and you're trying to post on Instagram, then it's you can't get the whole photo in there unless you use some kind of app to edit it into a square. So if you are planning on posting something to Instagram, it will actually help to just take it in that square mode already, because then it'll crop. You'll see automatically which parts are in your photo, and when you post it on Instagram, it will be a square. It will be a square already. Let's see. When I do portrait stage light, it does not black out certain areas around the subject. Yeah, Bronwyn, that is something that you'll have to play with. I have done that also, and it doesn't always recognize all of the areas. So you might need to play or move around a little bit to see, because the phone needs to kind of recognize the areas it needs to darken, and sometimes it can be a bit glitchy. So you can always try and see if you edit it, if you can rather do that afterwards. But otherwise, try and see if you move around, if that'll help. Right. Okay, guys, so I'm going to edit a photo now for those who want to stick around. So I'm going to quickly share my my camera with you, or my phone with you. Let's go in there. All right. So this particular gallery that I'm showing you at the moment, this is the photo shoot I did with the family specifically for this iPhone. So these were all taken on my phone. But as you see, I haven't deleted any of them because I use them often to explain things. But as you see, as I go through, there's a lot of photos that repeat, right? So I don't need all of them. So don't let this fool you. If this was my own photo shoot, I would have selected them and deleted them. Okay, cool. So let's start with the portrait stage lighting that I just answered about. Is these kinds of photos where you're on portrait mode on your phone, and then when you edit it afterwards, there's a few options to change how it looks. I don't use that often because, as I said, I have a very natural photo style. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not my particular style, but you can definitely do that. Okay, so let's quickly go into this. I want to show you. Not all of these are edited, guys. Okay, in here. So do you see those little hearts that are on some of the photos? Those are ones that I favorited. So to do that, when I open one of these photos, oh, you can't see that now. That is quite annoying. But okay, so I've opened the photo now on my gallery. At the bottom, which you can't see right now, which I'm not sure why, but at the bottom there's a share button, a heart, and a trash bin for deleting it, right? If you click on the heart, it's going to favorite it. I have to go out there. You can't really see it. It goes away. It goes into full screen mode. I'm not sure. See, technology. But you can click on that heart, but you have to be in the photo, right? And then when you go out into your gallery view where I am now, you'll see, I can see the little hearts where I favorited things. So now what you can do is at the top right, I can click select, right? It goes into select mode. And now anything that I didn't favorite, I will now go and select. So those ones that I'm clicking on now, just tapping on them on my screen, those are the ones that I would delete because they weren't the favorites. I have to keep them here because I often go back to check a few things, but those are the ones. Then you'll just see at the bottom right now, I can click on the trash bin and just actually delete the ones that I'm not using. So that's how you work with the favoriting thing. I'm just going to press cancel there and go out of there. I quickly want to show you with burst mode. So let me go into the albums down here. There are all my burst photos. So you'll see with burst photos, you'll see they look a little cascaded when you're viewing them, so that they're not just one block photo. You can see there are a few photos. So let's use this one for example. All right, wait, maybe let's use that one. Okay, so when I'm in this photo, you can't see it now. I'm not exactly sure why again, but at the bottom of my screen, there's an option that says select. So if I click on that now you can see at the bottom, there's a bunch of photos, right? And there's a little arrow pointing at the photo that it's on. So if I swipe through it, you'll now see the different photos that were taken. So this is an example of a burst mode. They were just like skipping, and the dog again, yay. So if I scroll through that, you can now, it almost looks like a little video because of all the photos I was taking of the action. So now you'll see at the bottom right of the photo itself, there's a little circle, right? So if I click on it, it says at the top, one photo selected. I don't want to delete any of these photos right now, but I'm just going to show you in theory what you need to do. So let's say for this one, like you can see her hair is in front of the lady Anzal, her hair is in front of her face. So there, I wouldn't use this photo. So that's something I wouldn't choose because I'm not going to edit it afterwards. Not that one. That one I could maybe use because there you can see her full face. They're skipping along. That's one I could choose to select. And then afterwards, if you've selected the ones that you like, then you'll see at the top right, there's a done option. So if you click on that, I'm scared to click on it, but let's click on it. Oh, there. Okay. So it says keep everything, or it says keep only 2 favorites. So if I click on keep only 2 favorites, the ones that I selected, it's going to keep those and then, discard the rest, which normally is what I would do, so that it doesn't clutter up my phone. So I hope that answers your question there. And now, for everyone that was waiting, thank you for waiting. Let's quickly go and edit a photo. I'm going to go into let's go to that photo. Okay, so I'm going to edit this. So now, for this photo at the top right of my screen, I'm going to click on edit, right? And then it goes to this screen right here. So for this one now, you'll see at the bottom, it's on this little cube situation, and you'll see at the top, it says portrait. So I was taking this photo in portrait mode, right? So if I now, you'll see at the top left, there's this little hexagon, yes. So if I click on it, now at the bottom, it says depth. So here I can change how blurry it should be. So I'm just going to go to the extreme so you can see what happens. So it's now on f2.8, which means it should be quite blurry behind her. If I go all the way to the left, you'll see it's a very slight difference, but you can see it's more blurry behind her. If I go all the way to the right, you'll see now it's just like a normal photo. It's not blurred anymore. So here, if you've taken a photo in portrait mode, you can change how blurry something should be. So I'm just going to keep it there on 2.8. I'm happy with that, although make it maybe a little bit less. 2.2. No, that's too much. 2.8. You'll see a lot of it is just playing around. Okay, cool. I'm going to tap there at the top left again to go out of that setting. Now, this little cube at the bottom, if I click on it, and remember I took this in portrait mode. So if you took it in normal photo mode, you won't have these specific options. So at the bottom, I'm tapping and holding on that little cube. You'll see there it says natural light. So I didn't change anything and you didn't use any filters. If I now swipe to the left, there's a studio light option, which is often, it looks quite nice often. It has a nice kind of, filter to it. So you can use that. I'm swiping further left. It has contour light. I'm just showing you all the different options. Then we have stage light. So that's the one where it darkens everything behind her. Stage light mono, which is still black and white one. And then the last one is this high key light mono. So I don't really use those. I would at most normally use a studio light one or just keep my natural light. I'm going to edit this photo now because it's not edited yet. Okay, so right at the bottom, you'll see there's a cancel button. We're on the cube at the moment, and then there's some options to the right. So let's see what those do, sorry. Okay, so now I'm clicking on that little tiny thing with the dots around it. If I'm on it, it has now an option that says auto, okay? So I haven't clicked on it yet. If I click on it, it's kind of, it's a built-in feature that edits the photo for you automatically. So if I click on it, you'll see the photo changes slightly. You can, sometimes it might be a little too bright or too saturated or something, and then you'll see just below that little wand that's now selected. If I move that slider, see the little dots, it looks like a kind of a ruler at the bottom. If I click on it and move it, drag it to the left or to the right, then it will change the intensity of this filter that I just added, this auto editing one. So if I move it to the left, you'll see it becomes quite dark. If I move it to the right, it becomes quite light. So you can change the intensity of this. I don't often use the auto one just because I want a little bit more control over what happened. So if I click on that wand again, it will revert back to its original state. So if I click on it, there's the auto changes. If I click on it again, it'll take it away. So for this moment, I don't really want the auto one. I'm going to do it myself. So let's see where you can do that. Let's put the auto on because I kind of like that effect. It made it a bit lighter. I like that effect. It's cool. So now I'm swiping to the left so that I'm on the next one. This one says exposure. So this is how light or how dark your photo is. Now I can use that slider that's below. So you can always use that slider that looks like a ruler and move that to the left or to right. So I'm just going to do this quite extremely so you can see if I move it that way, it's now on 100. It's super bright. If I move it to the left, it's going to be really dark. So I normally change my exposure slightly, so I'll make it a little bit lighter, not too much, just so it's nice and bright and happy. Just for those of you, I have had some questions in the past. There's really no set way that every photo is edited because they're all in different lighting conditions. There's different colors in it, that you might want a different effect. So I can't really tell you change this to this, change this to this, but I can give you a bit of an idea of what I do when I am doing these photos. We have brilliance, which it's a bit of it looks at a bit of a warmth thing. So if I go to the extreme right, that's just changing a bit of the lighting. You can see as I swipe the effects that are changing within it. I normally don't really touch this. We have highlights, which are the really bright parts of your photo. So we move all the way to the left. It's taking the highlights away, but you'll see it's coloring it slightly yellow, which I don't want that. And all the way to the right, it's making it even brighter, which is not exactly what I want. Sometimes I would turn the highlights off a little bit just in case it was a little bit bright. In this case, let's move it just slightly to the left, so it's -12. Right. Then the shadows really is just the shadows, so anything darker in the photo. And let's move this all the way to the right. There you'll see now it's super bright. So anything that was shadowy in there, it's being lit. And all the way to the left, it's being darkened even more. So this one, I would often maybe just move it slightly up so it makes the shadows lighter. It really just depends on what photo you're working with. Sometimes if you've taken a photo and you see that your subject is darker than you want them to be, if you make the shadows lighter, then often it's not going to make the whole photo lighter, really just actually the subjects, which is a great tip to remember. Then the contrast is really what it says, how big is the contrast between light and dark in your photos. All the way to the right, there's lots of contrast. All the way to the left, there's no contrast, and that looks really creepy. So I'm not going to do that. I normally would up the contrast a tiny bit just to really enhance the photo slightly. Okay, then we have the brightness, which I'm not going to change at the moment. I'm fine with how bright it is. We have a black point, which is really just, you'll see, if I move it all the way to the left, anything that has black in it will be made lighter. If I make it all the way to the right, then anything with black in it becomes very dark. So this I would also slightly move to make it darker just to enhance the photo. Then we're at saturation. So this is how, how bright a color is, meaning super blue or just slightly blue. So let me change this so you can see. I move all the way to the right. Anything that has color in it becomes very intense. I don't want that. If I go all the way to the left, you'll see it actually changes it to black and white because it's removing all the color from the photo. So with saturation, I would normally like push it a little bit so that the colors in the photo come out, but I don't want it to look fake, and it can very quickly look fake. So you'll see the blue in her shirt is looking a little too blue, so that might be too much saturation at the moment. So let's put it back to 10. So it's really something you just play with and see. We have vibrant, so this is the warmth of the photo. So if I move that all the way to the right, you'll see it actually doesn't have the same effect as the saturation. It doesn't like, I mean, I wouldn't keep it at this particular moment where it is at 100, but it does enhance all of the colors in the photos, which is a lot of what my photos are like. They are quite bright and vibrant and rich and warm, all the way to the left now, it's like dulling all of the photos, which all of the colors, which is not exactly what I want. So I would move it up. There we go. That's a bit warmer. No, that's too much. Just about there. I might even lower it later. Let's see. Then we're getting to warm. So this is something I often play with because I like warm photos. Warm means more yellowy, orangey tones. If you have a colder photo, it would have more bluish tones. So a good example of this is at night, right? If it's not overcast, that magic hour that I was talking about, check that hour before sunset. It becomes like very goldeny, reddish, pinkish, orangey tones. But after that, when it's very close to sunset, it often becomes bluish. And that's the colder kind of tone. So see if you can spot that the next time there's with the sunset, if you can see clearly just how that changes. You can actually take a photo of something and see how the light changes in all of those. So with warmth, I would definitely warm it up a bit. So like that, let's turn it all the way there. There it's like very orangey. I'm just using the extreme so you can see what the difference is. If I'm going all the way to the left, it's quite greenish, bluish. So that would be your colder tones. So my photos are normally a bit warmer, so I would more or less put it there. The tint is often the pink and the greens, right? So if we move all the way to the right now, it's very pink, and all the way to the left, it's kind of green, which is not really what I want. So you can check if you're in nature. Often, sometimes your phone will take a photo and it's just really too green, then you can move this a little bit more towards the pink side, slightly, just to change that hue so that's not that much. For this specific photo, I might change it a little bit pinker just because she was inside, really absolutely very slightly. The sharpness is really just how sharp the photo is. For those of you who wear glasses, it's like if you're not wearing glasses versus wearing glasses. You know what sharpness means. You guys know what I mean. So the sharpness, I would always set a little bit higher, just because, in case there was any blurring, and also just enhances the photo. So I would normally put it there. Let's see what it does all the way. If you're trying to take a photo and it should be flattering and all that, don't put your sharpness all the way up, because it's going to enhance everything that you don't necessarily want enhanced. So you might just leave it around there to keep it, make it a little bit sharper, but not overly sharp. I'm not going to play with those ones. Noise reduction. Often if you take photos at night or like later in the day, late afternoon, early evening, you'll see your photos might look very grainy, which is an effect that some people want, and that's awesome. If you don't want that, you can change the noise reduction. So I'm going to put it all the way up. You're not going to really, oh, there you see. I don't know if you can see on the screen, but it kind of looks a little bit blurry, which I don't really want, and hazy is kind of the word. So sometimes I change the noise reduction slightly more, even on a normal photo without grain, just because it has a really nice effect on people's skin. I don't know why. It might be that it's not anything that you'll see. It kind of becomes blurry if you move it all the way to the right, but otherwise it actually has, quite a nice effect just in terms of skin tone. So that's a good tip for selfies, is to use your noise reduction, but only a little bit. If it's too much, you're going to look smudgy, and that's just not normal. And then the last one is your vignette. So that is the frame, kind of the frame around your photo. So let's move it all the way to the right. So you'll see this kind of looks a lot like photos 10, 15 years ago. I'm not crazy about the effect to this extent. If I move it all the way to the left, you'll see it actually becomes a little bit white around the edges. So with vignette, I'll often just change it. I'll make it like ever so slightly, but not even always. It really depends on the photo. So I'll put it on 3 if it needs to be, not even more than that. So, and that's more or less what I would do to this kind of photo. I might change the warmth still a little bit to make it even a little bit warmer. And that's more or less what I would do with a photo like this. Do you guys have any questions in terms of the editing that I can help you with? I'm going to quickly jump into the chat just to see if I missed anything over there. But please post your questions. If you have a question from Facebook, please let me know. I can quickly answer that for you if you want me to do something else. Let's quickly see. Not seeing anything in the chat just yet. Awesome comments, guys. Thank you so much for your comments. I really appreciate it. That's so great. Adrian, yes, okay, questions. Once edited, can you keep the original and edited version? Very good question, Adrian. So for this specific photo, if I say, or let's just go to, wait, I still have something else to share with you guys now that I think of it, sorry. Okay, so with this photo, right, at the bottom, we were at that little clock thingy with the dots around it. There's more options to the right. So let's just quickly look at them and then I'll get to your questions. So if I click on those little 3 interlinked Venn diagram-ish circles, here are some presets, some filters that the in-app already has, your in-app editor. So with this one, this is the original photo. Well, I've edited this photo now, remember, so it's keeping that as the original. But if I swipe to the right, there are a few options that you can use. What's nice about these is you see that slider, that little ruler thingy is still at the bottom. So you can click on any of these and then slide that slider to the left to change the intensity of it, which we often need to do. It's quite an intense effect. So if I move that slider to the left and to the right, it's going to change the intensity of that effect, which is really great. So if you're brand new to editing, you don't know what you're doing, this is also a good place to start. I would, however, still go to the other one, to this one, the clock thingy with the dots around it, and play around in here. You can rather add that auto filter and then go and change more things if you like. That's just my personal preference. But if you really just want a one get go thing, you could definitely use these. You'll see they have different effects on them. It's kind of like Instagram filters, and there's black and white filter as well. So that black and white filter is quite nice. I would definitely change the intensity. Oh, if I change intensity now, it's going to go back to a color photo, which I don't want. But anyway, so those are filters that you can play with. I still like my original edited one. And then the last one at the bottom right, this little square thingy, that's where you can crop your photo. So if it wasn't straight, you'll see it auto straights your iPhone in-app editor, which is kind of cool. It automatically finds the lines in your photo and it will straighten it for you, which is really great. So with this specific one, you'll see at all the sides, I can move those sliders in or out like this. I'm just tapping on it and dragging it and change it to what I want in this photo. The more you zoom now into a photo, you might lose quality. So I wouldn't actually want to do that necessarily. So I'm just going to drag it back to its original. I'm just now pinching it, so it goes back to its original size. You can also see there's a vertical one. So if I change that, it'll have quite psychedelic effects. But if you need that, sometimes you were standing at a weird angle when doing that. And there's a horizontal one, which will also do that, which makes me think of like 90s sitcoms if I slide that. Okay, cool. And that's your crop. And now when you're done, you can click the bottom right that says done. I also just want to show, I'm just going to go back to that little square cube at the bottom. So now, this is now the edited photo, right? If I tap on this photo, it's going to show me the original. So there's my original, there's my edited version. I'm going to tap on it again so you can see. Cropped original, there's my edited one. So you can see the effects of both. Yeah, and that's basically it for editing. Any other questions that you guys might have? I think we're done. I think we're happy. Right. I'm going to stop sharing over here. Let's just go back to, we can go back to my presentation just quickly in case anyone wanted to see any of that. Let's go back there. Oops. Okay, cool. Let me stop sharing. Thanks so much, iStore, for having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone that attended. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to see what you do with your photos. Please tag me. Please tag iStore. Remember that iStore competition as well. It's a really great voucher to win. And thanks again.